following is a special presentation of WAAY 31 News. Standing guard. Ready to protect the nation at a moment's notice.
We instantaneously can launch and we're ready to go.
A flying war room.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the flight deck, seatbelt sign is on.
Keeping the country connected during its darkest day.
This is one of the only missions in the military that you don't want us actually executing.
While sending a message to our enemies.
Thinking twice. They have to think twice before they want to attack the United States.
This is an inside look at America's Doomsday plane.
Tucked away in America's heartland lies our country's key to national security. Its name, the E-4B Night Watch, a militarized version of the Boeing 747-200. Standing guard at more than 230 feet long and about 20 stories wide. The plane is one of 4 in existence, 2 on standby, 1 almost always undergoing maintenance, and this one at Lincoln Airport in Nebraska, all ready to respond in a catastrophe.
We instantaneously can launch and we're ready to go. We can be airborne in a certain number of minutes.
Its nickname, the Doomsday plane.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the flight deck, seatbelt sign is on. We'll be taxiing here shortly.
In a national emergency, the aircraft becomes a command center, allowing the President, Secretary of Defense, and the Joint Chiefs of Staff to communicate with boots on the ground. That includes directing U.S. forces, executing emergency war orders, and coordinating civil authorities.
So if other nodes are going down, our President of the United States cannot afford to have a break in communication with any of his fielded forces or any heads of state of government or other leaders. So we are always ready to go for that reason.
In the event of a nuclear attack, there is no backup. The E-4B is the last line of defense. It's designed to survive an electromagnetic pulse or EMP blast from a nuclear weapon. The only windows on board, at emergency exits and in the cockpit, all outfitted with a special mesh shielding.
Looks like you're looking through a screen door. It's an amazing airplane to fly, right? The queen of the skies, if you will, and then we turned it into a military command post.
Lieutenant Colonel Peter Amaral is on his second assignment with the 1st Airborne Command Control Squadron. He and his crew ready to respond no matter the day or time.
So it's pretty neat to jump into the mission with anywhere between 50 and 80 crew members to go support the President and the Secretary, national command authorities across the board through a full range of conflict, if you will. The whole spectrum of warfare. So from day-to-day alert operations, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all year round, Christmas, New Year's. It's a holiday, we're out on watch all the time.
The plane offers 5,000 square feet of office space with a secure conference room, media briefing room, a few bunks, and the all-important battle staff, where a crew from all military branches works together to collect and transfer data as needed. Their capabilities are endless, with 42 different communication systems that can access any cell phone, landline, or video conference worldwide.
The nation has reliable communication, redundant capability for the nation, for the Secretary of Defense, the Chairman, to advise the President. Because without that, that becomes a risk.
Colonel Brian Golden describes the plane as the Swiss Army knife of military communications, a hub at the Commander-in-Chief's disposal on our nation's worst day.
If you can't communicate, it's kind of useless. So that's where communication is even more important in today's world.
That communication kept miles high in the air for days at a time.
And also what's unique about this aircraft, this is the only one in the military that has an oil system of 14 gallons that you can dump into all the engines so we can stay airborne. All the other aircraft in the world at some point burn through oil and they have to land. We have the capability to keep the aircraft airborne just on oil alone for 3 or 4 days. Let's hope we never have to be airborne for 3 or 4 days.
Adding yet another layer to the jet's long list of capabilities.
That's one of the biggest challenges of flying this airplane, is getting gas while you're going 500 miles an hour, 25,000 feet above the ground.
We will do air refueling with a bunch of tankers about every 5 or 6 hours if we're executing our full mission set.
As you work your way in, could you come up 3?
So there'll be 4 or 5 or 6 tankers that will go through, and then 5 or 6 hours later we'll go through another 5 or 6 tankers, and just to stay airborne.
The Doomsday jet isn't just reserved for catastrophic events.
Yes, we are a Department of Defense asset with Department of Defense personnel on board, but we don't always just support the Department of Defense.
The E-4B is the primary mode of transportation for the Defense Secretary and staff outside the continental U.S. A flying Pentagon, if you will, providing vital communication pathways, some during monumental moments in history.
I'm Lloyd Austin, the Secretary of Defense.
In fact, during his first E-4B flight, Secretary Lloyd Austin was on a video conference call with President Joe Biden when the decision was made to withdraw U.S. troops from Afghanistan. The jet also provides support for FEMA, turning into a command center for relief efforts after natural disasters like hurricanes and earthquakes.
It may not be a nuclear event with a near peer. What if it's a power grid failure? And that wakes up the president. And we need to have that capability on board to make sure that everyone has all the communication capability. So it's the unknowns that may arise. So we may be running the communication platform for our nation, for different agencies and different organizations and entities just for 5-10 minutes, or maybe it's for a day. Just kind of depends what the nation needs. So that's what we are designed to do. Bring everybody into a conference or communicate with other people or connect people so they can talk, and then we back away. That's really what we're designed to do.
So how much does this all cost? Our country's most important, most expensive aircraft at an operating cost of $147,000 an hour.
It's expensive because of all the communication gear we carry on board, and also an alert aircraft will have 72, 75, maybe 80 people on board.
The next most expensive aircraft is Air Force One.
Air Force One is designed to carry the president, right? So it's a little more opulent than this airplane is. This airplane is designed to carry a battle staff to execute, like I said before, anywhere of the full spectrum from peace through conflict. So we have a few more systems communication-wise than are on Air Force One. You'll notice the distinctive hump on top of our airplane versus the VC-25A doesn't have it, just a different set of antennas, right?
The high cost? To make sure the nation can sleep soundly, knowing it's protected.
Our brand is supporting the nation, so I want people to understand what we do. As a taxpayer, I want them to know what their money's doing. I want them to have confidence that our nation has communication capabilities in a time of a crisis.
As with everything, the Night Watch program has come to grow and evolve, learning from previous failures to keep history from repeating itself. In just a few minutes, we'll take a trip down memory lane and learn how this piece of national security came to be. I'll also introduce you to some of the people responsible for keeping the jet ready in case duty calls. The Night Watch program has evolved through the years. It hasn't always been as multifaceted as it is today. The program stood up during the Cold War to direct our country's nuclear assets as part of the National Emergency Airborne Command Post, commonly referred to as NECAP. But it wasn't until September 11, 2001, that this mission set got a wake-up call.
So that was a really bad time for our nation, but it was the beginning of the reinsurgence of our communication capabilities for our nation. Because when President Bush was down in Florida at a school, he needed the best communication capability ever, and he didn't have it because we were not paying that much attention to communication capability because we never thought we'd be attacked. But since then, we have very robust, multiple layers now of communication just on this platform to make sure that the nation can talk to each other.
The Doomsday fleet now operates under the NAOC, or National Airborne Operations Center.
If the NAOC is executing its primary mission, that is a bad day for our nation. Boring is good. Boring is what we want. The team chief wants to be bored because everyone else is doing their job. But we're always poised, we're always on hot alert, all the systems are always on.
The Air Force is responsible for maintaining the jet itself.
So basically we'll have any jobs that we call them PRDs, pilot reported discrepancies, and they're issues with the aircraft. And we'll go out and we'll try to troubleshoot and diagnose what the issue actually is. And once we have an idea of what the issue is, we'll change out a part and then do ops checks on it and make sure that everything's working the way it's supposed to before we send it back on another flight.
From the inside out, maintainers like Tech Sergeant Cole Lewis and Instruments and Controls understand their role in the overall mission.
It's extremely important to troubleshoot them and actually figure out what the problem is. Like I said, we don't want to be sending up a jet with the same issues over and over. We want to make sure we're providing safe aircraft for the pilots to fly. This is a huge mission, and obviously we want to make sure that we're putting a good jet up every time it goes up.
Even before the jet lands, crews are standing by to check everything from engine oil to tires to ensure it's ready to go up again. Once on the ground, the team's focus quickly shifts from the task it just finished to the ones that could lie ahead.
Once we land at a location, those aircrew will step off that jet, go into crew rest so that they're ready to respond if they need to. And we've got bases all over the United States that we set up at, and we maintain a very close tether to that aircraft so we can get on that jet in a timely manner. And then the second piece of that is our comm operator. So this jet does not shut down. 24/7, 365. There's folks back there making sure that those 42 disparate communication systems are connected where they need to be connected.
Senior Airman Erskine Jones can be found in the back of the plane.
We make sure that everything has the correct voltage that's needed for it to function properly, and we make sure it's also cooled for the same function to make sure that it's all running properly.
The South Alabama native is in mission power and cooling.
All of this right here is my console. Power, cooling systems.
Every inch of the plane is monitored and maintained around the clock, keeping an aircraft much older than them up and running.
Most all of us who operate this airplane are younger than the airplane. There might be one or two still kicking around who operate the airplane who were born in the 70s, but yeah, almost everybody is younger than the airplane is. I'm very appreciative of the amount of time that they spend and the care that they put into maintaining the airplane so that we can go out and fly it for training and go out and fly it for missions.
As with everything aboard the E-4B Night Watch, that old technology is there for a reason.
We're 3 stories off the ground sitting in the pilot's seat, so it's a completely different view or vantage point than any of the other airplanes that we have floating around the Air Force. It's 1970s technology, so that sometimes you would look at that and say it's an encumbrance, but based on our mission set, if we're going to have to fly in a nuclear environment, then we have the capability to do it because some of that technology is maybe a little bit older, that we're more redundant and hardened against those things.
It's not only the technology that's specific to the jet.
The battle staff is also unique because we'll have Navy, Air Force, Army, Marines, and Guardians on the aircraft as well to execute different mission sets. I may have an Army helicopter pilot as my nuclear strike advisor. So we'll train them up to whatever level we need. We may have an Air Force civil engineer running contingency ops. We may have an Army intel officer doing intelligence. We may have a Navy submariner being a deputy strike advisor. We have all the different capabilities on board for our nation, and we'll train them up to as specific needs require.
That rigorous training, making sure those who need to be are ready to respond if the worst were to happen.
We have training events lined up as soon as we get off this jet. And there's no white space on the calendar. Every single spot on the counter for every single jet that he owns is spoken for and obligated. And that's how busy we are.
We do 2-week alerts. So every 2 weeks we'll swap out, but then they have 4 weeks off in between. So they can hang out with their family and friends and kind of recover. Because it is tough. You can't run through a 2-week alert.
In 2016, the E-4B realigned under Air Force Global Strike Command and 8th Air Force. And since then, there's been a number of valuable upgrades to the mission. Most notably, the E-4B specific simulator. Prior to the local trainer, operators and maintainers were required to train in a 747 simulator with various contractors in locations across the U.S. While pilots and flight engineers are the primary users, aircraft maintainers utilize the sim to perform engine run checks and obtain quick start certifications. For those assigned to the mission, it's one of pride and patriotism.
It makes me feel good about what I'm doing as far as for the Air Force, because I wanted to be able to have a job that had not a bigger part. I'm not trying to downplay other jobs, but I'm just saying I want to have a bigger part in what the Air Force and the military does for our country.
You definitely have a sense of pride in what you're doing, and you know that what you're doing actually matters, and it's just a great feeling, especially when you get to see it fly and take off. It's an incredible feeling.
We know where the Night Watch program stands now, but where does it go from here? What lies ahead for the E-4B? In just a few minutes, we'll tackle that question and share messages from those assigned to the jet to you at home and to potential enemies around the world. So what does the future hold for the Night Watch program? That answer is unclear. The jet has about a decade of life left before the Air Force has to look at outfitting a new airframe. Back in August, the Advanced Tactical Acquisition Corps, or ATAC Team 11, was tasked with coming up with recommendations for future technology. In the very early stages of development is a planned replacement for the current fleet. The team's recommendations focused on creating a standardized workflow and transforming the Air Force culture to embrace the benefits of digital technology. The advice? Hopefully taking the good the country has now and making it great if future threats arise. Until that day comes, the Doomsday plane and its staff will stay ready to jump into action, not looking to cash in on the jet's nickname, but rather keep it from being needed.
You're providing deterrence, which is a great facet of our mission set, but if we were ever to come to the day where the nickname came into play, it would definitely be more stressful than our day-to-day alert life is. But I don't think that weighs on people too much that, you know, the nickname is the Doomsday plane. We don't walk around talking about that being our focus.
And if you see the jet in action,
I think they should feel extremely safe. This jet is command and control. So if we're flying around getting our training missions in, or if we're on an actual mission, we're doing things that provide the continuity of government and things like that. So it should be a reassurance that we have a capability when this aircraft is up.
If you see us out there, it just means that we're out doing the mission, deterring our adversaries from, we'll say, maybe thinking twice. They have to think twice before they want to attack the United States, because people like us in this mission are ready to go 24/7.
providing protection and support for not only our country, but also others around the globe.
We are proving to the world not to aggravate them, not to insult them, not to, intimidate them. It's just like, look, we can do our business and we have that communication capability. That is what the taxpayers and our citizens of our nation, and also our partners and allies. So it's not just people in the United States. It's our NATO, our biggest alliance, and all the partners around the world. If they know that we have this type of communication capability and redundancy, they know that we're reliable and they can always talk to us as well. So it's not just the United States that we provide support to in deterrence, it's the whole world.
One mission and one form of communication at a time. WAAY 31 was part of a small media group given rare access to the E-4B Night Watch. We'd like to extend a sincere thank you to Air Force Global Strike Command, 8th Air Force, and the 595th Command and Control Group for making it possible.
Thank you for watching this special presentation of WAAY 31 News. For more than 60 years, North Alabama has turned to WAAY 31 for trusted news, weather, and information. Coverage you can count on air, online, on your phone. WAAY 31.